Hi, Peter Charles here for Hooked for Life Fly Fishing. And one of the problems I've seen quite often when teaching newcomers to the sport is their inability to make a good presentation cast. And by that I mean that last forward stroke after the false casting, that last forward stroke that would lay the fly out. Typically I'd see people making some really nice false casts look great. And then when they make that presentation cast, whap! And you know, smacking the fly into the water, piling the line up in front of them, and you know, this inability to go between the false cast and the presentation cast. So what's the problem? Well, really what it is that there's two things going on. When you make that final cast, you're still having to do the stop in the same place you were doing when you're making the false cast. You still have to stop at that point, and then you drop the rod to be able to actually present the fly. And what people were doing was just thrashing the rod of the water. And because it wasn't getting the fly out, they would go harder and harder and harder, as opposed to just stopping high like they were doing with the false cast. When we were teaching them, we're saying, don't do anything different. Just make your false cast, then stop, and then just drop, and then thrash. So what's that look like? Let's see a bit of footage on how it should be done. Now when we present a fly, we actually got to have that fly drop onto the water nice and neatly. And it's a bit deceiving when I say make a stop here, but if I do that, you can see the line falls back towards me. That's not very good for presentation. So what I have to do when I'm casting is I have to stop, then I drop, and my fly line rolls out. My fly and my leader straighten out, and the fly lands where it's supposed to. So I'm making my pulse to a stop, and then stop, and then I drop. And the line turns over. Okay, there you go. There's not much to it. If you want to make a good presentation cast with a dry fly or even a wet fly, the idea is you're making that high stop, and then you're just dropping your rod as the line rolls out. So the line ends up nice and straight off the rod tip when your rod tip is close to the water. And the key is you're still making that nice high stop the way you would when you were false casting. And it doesn't require any extra effort at all. It just requires that stop. And that doesn't sound like much, but sometimes it can be a challenge to get it right. But just remember, nice high crisp stop for all casts. And then when you want to present, you just drop the rod tip. Cheers.